Have you ever been judged by your appearance? By the clothes you wear, the neighborhood you live in, or the car you drive? I have. My own family humiliated me in front of everyone for being a poor mother raising her children alone. They laughed at me until the day they discovered the truth. Stay until the end, because this twist shut them all up. If you've ever been through a trial or are struggling to raise your children alone, leave a like now and comment. I understand below. This really helps me continue sharing these stories. And on that day, when everyone saw what I had achieved with my own hands, without anyone's help, the silence was absolute. My sister-in-law lowered her head, my brother couldn't look me in the eye, and my mother-in-law could only say, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." I didn't need apologies. I just needed them to finally see that a poor mother is not synonymous with failure. Today, my children are proud of me, and I am proud that I never gave up. The end of the story? I silenced the whole family, not with words, but with results. I was born in a simple house, in a poor neighborhood on the outskirts of town, where the smell of wet earth mingled with the smoke from wood-burning stoves. My mother raised 5 children alone after my father left in search of a better life that never came. From a young age, I saw her wake up before sunrise to wash clothes in the tub, iron other people's shirts, and still prepare our coffee with the little she had. I learned early on that poverty isn't just a lack of money. It's a lack of choice, of time, of peace. At school, I was a girl in a patched uniform, with my hair always tied up because I didn't have money for a pretty ribbon. My classmates laughed when I arrived in worn-out flip-flops, and the teachers, even unintentionally, looked at me with pity. I studied hard because I believed that studying was the only way out of that situation. I wanted to be someone. I wanted to make my mother proud. At 17, I met an older boy who promised me the world. He said he loved me, that we would build a beautiful family, live in a house with a yard. I believed him. When I got pregnant, he disappeared. Unanswered calls, locked doors, his family saying I had set him up to trap their son. I was left alone with my growing belly and fear eating me up inside. My mother cried, but she didn't judge me. She just said, "Now it's just the 2 of us, daughter. We'll figure it out." I moved back in with her, shared a room with my younger sisters, and began to feel the weight of being a mother even before I was an adult. My ex's family spread rumors that I was easy, that I had ruined his life. Some distant relatives already started giving me dirty looks, as if I were a walking mistake. At 18, my daughter was born, and soon after, with the same father who never acknowledged her, came my second child. 2 babies, expensive diapers, sleepless nights, and me without a job, without a father to help us, with nothing but the strength I inherited from my mother. Many women are judged right at the beginning of their journey simply because life didn't follow the perfect script. Getting pregnant young, being abandoned, raising children alone, that's not failure, it's circumstance. What defines us isn't the mistake or the difficult choice we made in the past, but what we do afterward. I could have given up there, but I chose to fight, and that choice changed everything. After my second child was born, reality hit me like a wall. I was 20 years old, with 2 young children, no help from their father, and a mother already carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. I needed to support the household, put food on the table, and still give my children love, attention, and a future. I didn't have time to cry or to feel sorry for myself. It was time to get up and fight. I used to wake up at 4 a.m. to catch the first bus. I worked as a cleaner in the homes of wealthy families, those big houses with a swimming pool and a maid. Ironically, I spent the days scrubbing floors, cleaning bathrooms, listening to my employers talk about trips, private schools, and expensive birthday parties. I smiled. I did my job properly, but inside it hurt. I thought, one day my children will have this too. In the afternoon, I would rush to get a second job, working as a waitress in a diner downtown. I would stay until midnight serving tables, cleaning the counter, dealing with rude customers after an exhausting day. I would arrive home dead tired, but I still had to breastfeed the youngest, change diapers, tell stories to the oldest so she wouldn't have nightmares. I slept a maximum of 4 hours a night. There were days when my body begged me to give up, but I would look at their sleeping faces and think, they didn't choose this. I chose to fight for them. Money barely covered the basics. Overdue rent, electricity cut off occasionally, food rationed. I bought clothes at thrift stores, cut the children's hair home, invented games with cardboard boxes. My ex's family never helped. They said, I'm the one who managed. Some distant relatives even commented, poor thing. She's going to raise those children alone and poor. That was burning, but I transformed it into fuel. I didn't have a nanny. I didn't have a grandmother to help every day. I didn't have free weekends. It was just me and God. And even so, I sang to them, made cakes with leftover eggs and flour, taught them letters and numbers with an old notebook. Because being a poor mother doesn't mean giving little love. It means giving everything you have multiplied. Being a single mother from a poor background demands a strength that those who haven't experienced it can't fathom. It's carrying the weight of the world without letting the children feel it. It's smiling when you want to cry, planning for tomorrow, while barely able to get through today. But this struggle forges unbreakable women. Each day I survived was a silent victory. And these small victories were the foundation of everything that came after. If you've ever been through a trial or are struggling to raise your children alone, leave a like now and comment, I understand below. This really helps me continue sharing these stories. After 2 years of struggling alone, I received an invitation to a family gathering at my mother-in-law's house. It was my brother-in-law's birthday, and everyone was going to be there. Siblings, sisters-in-law, uncles, cousins. It had been a long time since I'd been to events like that. With 2 young children and double the work, there was hardly any time left for visits. But I thought, it will be good for the children to see their cousins, and I deserve a day off. I prepared everything with what I had. I washed and ironed the children's best clothes, a flowery blouse for my daughter and a clean t-shirt for my son. For myself, I put on a simple dress, one of those cheap cotton ones I wore every day. I had no makeup, no accessories, no nice shoes. But we were clean, smelled good, and were happy. I took the crowded bus with the 2 of them in my arms and arrived feeling cheerful. When I entered the yard, the silence was almost immediate. Everyone turned to look. The house was decorated, the table laden with food, the smell of barbecue wafted through the air, and children were running around in designer clothes. My sister-in-law, married to my ex's brother, immediately came to greet me, but her smile was one of those fake ones. She looked me up and down and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, wow, you really came dressed like that? I thought you'd put in a little more effort, at least for the kids. I felt the blood rush to my face. The other women chuckled softly, exchanging glances. My mother-in-law approached and, instead of offending her, added, yes, daughter, we understand it's difficult, but you could have borrowed some clothes, couldn't you? Someone else chimed in, poor children, growing up so simply like that. I stood there, my children holding my hand, feeling each word like a stab wound. My daughter, who already understood some things, squeezed my hand tighter and asked softly, Mom, why are they laughing at us? At that moment, I wanted to disappear, but I swallowed my tears, smiled, and said, because they don't understand how happy we are in our own way. I spent the rest of the day in the corner, serving the children, avoiding eye contact. When we left, no one offered to pay for the bus fare. I left there with a broken heart, but with a growing certainty inside me. It wouldn't happen again. The most painful judgment almost always comes from those who should welcome and protect us. A family that humiliates instead of helping doesn't deserve the name of family. That day, I learned that a person's worth isn't in the clothes they wear, but in the dignity they carry. And that humiliation, however painful, was the push I needed to never again depend on their approval. After that first humiliation at the party, I tried to distance myself a bit from my ex's family, but it was difficult. We lived in the same city, the children were cousins, and every now and then there was a birthday, a christening, some event that I was obliged to attend. And at all of them, there she was, my sister-in-law, the wife of my ex's older brother. Always well-dressed, perfect hair, expensive clothes, posting everything on social media with captions about her perfect life. She never missed a chance to compare me. When I arrived with the children by bus, she would comment loudly, wow, you still take public transport? I can't even think about it. It gives me a headache. If I brought a homemade cake to the party, she would say, "How cute. Did you make it at home? I prefer to order. Time is money, right?" And she would laugh, as if it were a joke. But her look was one of pure superiority. Once, in front of everyone, she looked at my children play on the floor and said, "Poor things. They don't even have a decent toy. I buy everything imported for mine to stimulate their development." My daughter heard and came to ask me later if she was poor in toys. That broke my heart. Another time, during lunch, she saw my old purse and said, "Don't you think about replacing that thing? It's so worn out." I replace mine every year, as if I had a choice. The worst part was that she said it smiling, as if she were helping me, giving me friendly advice. But I knew it was to belittle me, to show others how much better her life was. My ex didn't even say anything. He stayed quiet, letting her talk. And the rest of the family laughed or pretended it was nothing. Little by little, those comments became routine. Every time I showed up, I already expected a dig disguised as concern. I would cry on the bus going home, but I never let her see. I kept everything inside and channeled it into productive anger. I thought, one day you'll eat your words. Envy disguised as criticism is one of the most cowardly forms of humiliation. Those who need to belittle others to feel great are never as good as they seem. Those constant comments didn't destroy me. They shielded me. Each of her phrases was another reason for me to work twice as hard, to prove not to her, but to myself, that I was capable of so much more. And the silence that followed, that was worth every tear I swallowed. The worst moment came at my sister-in-law's daughter's 15th birthday party. It was a big theme party with expensive decorations, a DJ, a full buffet, the kind of thing you only see in magazines. I received the invitation via message in the family group chat, with a photo of the debutante posing like a model. I thought it would be a good opportunity for my children to have some fun, see their cousins, and eat a different kind of cake. I prepared everything with care. I bought inexpensive fabrics and sewed a flared skirt for my daughter, using a blouse I had saved. For my son, I used a dress shirt that I had altered. It wasn't designer clothing, but it was clean, ironed, and nice in our own way. On the day, I took the bus with them, even bringing a simple little gift wrapped in colorful paper. We arrived at the entrance of the hall, and my sister-in-law came to greet us. She looked at the children, then at me, and her smile froze. She pulled me aside and said softly, but firmly, "Look, I don't mean to be rude, but the children are dressed too casually for party. Everyone hired a professional photographer. There's going to be a photo shoot, and they'll stand out in the pictures. It's best if you don't go in, so you don't embarrass yourselves." I was breathless. My daughter, who was already 7 years old, heard everything and started crying quietly, holding my hand. My son asked, "Mom, did we do something wrong?" I tried to explain that we didn't, but inside I was devastated. There, at the door of the hall, with the children beside me, she continued, "It's for their own good too, right? I don't want the other guests to comment." Some relatives who were nearby pretended not to see. Others looked on with pity mixed with relief that it wasn't them. My mother-in-law appeared and, instead of intervening, just said, "Well, daughter, maybe it's better to come back another day." I went back to the bus stop with the children crying, the gift still in my hand. On the way, my daughter asked, "Why doesn't Annie like us, Mom?" I didn't know how to answer without crying. That night, I put away the little clothes I had made with so much love and promised myself I would never again put my children in a situation like that. Judging children by the clothes they wear or the money their parents have is the height of a lack of empathy. That day, it wasn't just me who was humiliated. It was my children, who were completely innocent. That prohibition hurt more than any comment, because it showed how much some people are capable of excluding others to maintain a perfect appearance. But that pain turned into fire. I decided that one day my children would enter any place with their heads held high, not because they had expensive clothes, but because their mother never gave up fighting for them. The night after that party, where we were barred from entering, I got home and put the children to bed. My daughter was still whimpering, asking why we couldn't go in. I hugged her tightly, kissed her forehead, and told her that one day we would have our own parties, much prettier ones. But when I turned off the light and was alone in the kitchen, the real tears came. I cried everything I had swallowed over the past few years. Every comment, every pitying look, every humiliation. At that moment, sitting at the table with a cup of cold coffee, something changed inside me. I looked at that small house, the peeling walls, the almost empty refrigerator, and I thought, enough. I'm not going to accept this anymore. I'm not going to let anyone make my children feel inferior anymore. It was an explosion of anger. It was a cold, calm, and definitive decision. I was going to change our story, but I was going to do it my way, silently, without telling anyone, without giving explanations. The next day, I started researching on my old cell phone. I read about online sales, free courses on YouTube, people who started from scratch and built something. I discovered the world of digital products, info products, and online sales. I didn't have money to invest, but I had time in the early mornings and an overwhelming desire. I decided I was going to create something of my own, an online course on home organization for mothers, because I knew firsthand what it was like to manage a house, children, and work with limited resources. I started secretly. No one in my family knew, not even my mother, so as not to worry her. I didn't tell my ex, nor my gossipy sisters-in-law. It was my secret, my weapon. Every night, after putting the children to bed, I would sit with my cell phone and write down ideas, record short videos with a front camera, and edit them in a free app. I worked for months without seeing a penny. But I didn't give up. The greatest revenge against those who humiliate you isn't shouting, fighting, or proving it to their faces. It's silent success. When you decide to change, you don't need to announce it to the world. Let the results speak for themselves. That night I made the decision was the true beginning of my turnaround. I no longer wanted their approval. I wanted freedom. And freedom is built step by step quietly until the day no one can ignore you anymore. After making the decision, my routine became a never-ending marathon. During the day, I held down 2 jobs. Cleaning in the morning, working at a snack bar in the afternoon and evening. I would arrive home around 11 p.m., bathe the children, have dinner with them with whatever was left over from the day, tell stories, and wait for them to fall into a deep sleep. Only then, around midnight, would I begin my real work, the work that would change our lives. I would sit at the kitchen table with my cell phone propped up on a glass as a tripod, the lamp dimmed so as not to wake anyone. I watched free YouTube tutorials on digital marketing, sales funnels, copywriting, and video editing. I took notes in an old notebook, word for word. Then I recorded the modules of my course, speaking softly, pausing every time when the children moved in a room, and re-recording if it was bad. I edited in a free app, cutting out errors, adding text to the screen, and copyright-free background music. There were nights when my eyes burned from staring at the small screen. My body craved bed, but I'd have another coffee and keep going. Sometimes I'd only sleep 2 or 3 hours, waking up at 4 a.m. again for work. There were days I almost fainted from exhaustion on the bus, but I held on tight. I knew that sacrifice was temporary. Each completed video was a brick in the new house I dreamed of for the children. Besides the course, I started selling catalog products online, makeup, perfume, things I bought wholesale with the little money I had left over and resold on WhatsApp. I answered customers in the middle of the night, packed orders before leaving for work, all in secret. Nobody knew, not even the children, quite understood why their mother stayed up so late. It was like that for months. I lost weight, got dark circles under my eyes, but I also gained knowledge, experience, and the first real money going into the digital account I opened just for that. Invisible sacrifice is a price that warrior mothers pay for independence. No one sees the sleepless nights, the tears mixed with coffee, the body begging for rest while the mind doesn't stop. But every hour stolen from sleep was an investment in my children's future. I wasn't just working, I was building freedom. And true freedom is born exactly like that. In the silence of the early morning, when no one applauds, no one helps, but you don't stop, because you know that on the other side of exhaustion, there's a life that no one else will be able to humiliate. The first few months were a test of pure patience. I had finished the online course, a simple program, but full of practical tips that I use myself to organize my home, budget, and time on a tight budget. I put it up for sale at an affordable price and advertised it in mothers' groups on Facebook and WhatsApp. The first sale came after 3 weeks. A stranger bought it, watched everything, and sent me a message thanking me. I cried at that moment. It was the first money I'd received without having to trade hours for a salary. Then more sales came. Slowly, 2 one week, 5 the next. I responded to each student personally, provided support, and improved the content based on their feedback. At the same time, catalog sales grew: makeup, perfume, household items. I bought wholesale with the money from the first sales and resold with a good profit margin. I created a list of loyal customers who recommended me to their friends. In 6 months, I managed to quit my job at the snack bar. The money from online sales and the catalog already covered the bills, and there was still some left over. I saved everything in a separate savings account without spending on anything unnecessary. I bought a used laptop to edit videos better, improved the lighting for recordings, and launched a second course on how to earn extra income from home as a mother. Sales doubled. A year later, the business was already paying a better rent. We moved to a small house, but it was ours, with a backyard for the children to play in. I bought new clothes for the kids, enrolled them in an affordable private school, all without fanfare. I didn't post anything on social media. I didn't tell anyone in the family. When I ran into a relative by chance, I'd say that everything was the same and change the subject. They still thought I was struggling financially, depending on favors. Growth was modest but steady. I even managed to earn enough to hire a cleaning lady once a week, a luxury I never imagined. But the best part was seeing my children happy, without going hungry, without hearing gossip. Those who judge you never imagine how much you're building in the shadows. While they laughed at my old clothes, I was building a digital empire with a cracked cell phone and sleepless nights. Discreet growth is powerful because it doesn't give others time to prepare to see you differently. When the truth comes out, there's no denying it. I didn't need them to know along the way. I just needed to reach the end and let the results speak louder than any words. 2 years after quietly starting the business, I received an invitation to a large family gathering. It was my mother-in-law's 80th birthday, and this time everyone was coming. Siblings, in-laws, uncles, distant cousins. The message in the group chat said, "Come whoever can, it's going to be an unforgettable party." I almost ignored it, but something inside me said, "Now's the time." In recent months, my business had exploded. I was making more money than all of them combined. I had a small team working with me. I had launched new courses, bought a brand new car, and a nice house in a good neighborhood. The children were studying at the best school in the region, taking English and swimming lessons, everything I had dreamed of, but nobody knew. I continued to show up rarely, always dressed simply when I did, saying that things were slowly improving. On the day of the party, I prepared everything differently. I bought an elegant dress, one of those that flatter the figure, high heels, and had my hair and makeup professionally done. For the children, designer clothes that they chose, haircuts, everything impeccable. We drove there in my new car, an SUV that I had just picked up from the dealership. When I parked in front of the house, some people already gave me strange looks, not recognizing the car. We entered the crowded hall. The silence began slowly, like a wave. My sister-in-law, who was organizing everything, turned around and stood there with her mouth open. My mother-in-law stopped mid-conversation. My ex, who was there with his new girlfriend, dropped the glass he was holding. People whispered, "Is that her? It can't be." My daughter held my hand and smiled proudly. My son walked with his head held high. I greeted everyone with a calm smile, as if nothing had changed. I sat at the main table, ordered juice for the children, and chatted normally. But the atmosphere was strange. No one knew what to say. My sister-in-law came closer, stammering, "Wow, you look different. Did something happen?" I just smiled and said, "A little, yes, we'll talk later." That whole day was filled with curious glances, attempts to strike up a conversation, and veil questions. I let them simmer in their curiosity. Only at the end of the party, when everyone was gathered to sing happy birthday, did I decide it was time for the truth. The surprise on the face of the person who humiliated you is the best proof that you won. You don't need to shout or rub it in their face. Just showing up differently, head held high, with your happy children by your side, is enough to shut anyone up. That day, I didn't go to prove anything to them. I went to show my children that their mother was capable of anything. And their shock? That was just the bonus. The party was in full swing. Happy birthday sung, cake cut, everyone around the table. My mother-in-law, emotional about turning 80, asked to speak to thank everyone for coming. When she finished, I calmly stood up, took the microphone the DJ was holding, and said, "Can I speak for a minute, too?" The room fell into absolute silence. I began slowly. "I want to thank you for all these years that this family has welcomed me, even when I arrived by bus, in simple clothes with 2 small children. You always had an opinion about how I raised my children, about my appearance, about my life." I saw faces changing color. My sister-in-law lowered her eyes. My ex nervously fiddled with a cell phone. I continued. "You saw me as the poor thing, the one who couldn't cope, the one who stood out in the photos. Remember the day they barred me from a party because my children were dressed too simply? I remember. My children remember. If you've ever been through a trial or are struggling to raise your children alone, leave a like now and comment, 'I understand' below. This really helps me continue sharing these stories." I took a deep breath and smiled. But today I came here to tell the truth. In recent years, while you thought I was still the same, I built an online business from scratch. I started with cracked cell phone, working late into the night, after 2 jobs and putting the kids to bed. Today, I have a company that makes more money than many of you dream of. I bought this house where my children have their own rooms, this car that brought us here. I paid for their studies, trips, and their future. I showed photos on my large cell phone that I projected onto the screen. My new house, the children at private school, me giving talks at events, printouts of my earnings. All of this with my own hands, without anyone's help, without my children's father, without family loans, without favors. The silence was so profound you could hear your heart beating. My sister-in-law cried quietly. My mother-in-law clutched her chest. My ex couldn't look at me. Someone started to applaud slowly. Then everyone, but I didn't need applause. I finished. I didn't come here to rub it in anyone's face. I came to show my children that a poor mother, judged and humiliated, can turn the tables. And to say that today, the one who silences his whole family, is me, not with words, with results. The silence of those who judge you is the greatest victory a mother can have. On that day, there was no argument, no excuse that could change the past. But there was respect earned through grit, silence, and persistence. I didn't need to forgive or forget the humiliations. I just needed to show that they never defined me. The end of the story isn't revenge. It's freedom. It's pride in my children's eyes. It's knowing that, no matter what they say, a warrior mother always finds a way to win.